How's it going, everybody? Cal here. And today it's a bit of a different video, as you can probably tell. I'm a little scruffier than normal. I'm a little run ragged, actually. But I figure I'm done missing uploads. So, I'm slapping this video together. We just played Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I have a lot to say. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. So everyone's favorite meme, Assassin's Creed Shadows, finally released after multiple delays and controversies. But is it any good, or is it more of what we expect? For the sake of this video, we're just gonna look at the game in a vacuum, ignoring the controversies. This is also just my opinion, and if you feel differently, that's totally okay. We can like different things and still get along. The story this time around follows two protagonists, starting with Yasuke, who has traveled with Portuguese Christians to Japan. Fascinated by Yasuke, Nobunaga allows their safe passage with the understanding that Yasuke will stay in his service as a warrior. Later on, Nobunaga's army is assaulting the village of Iga, which is where we are introduced to our second protagonist, Naoe. During the attack, Naoe's father gives her the hidden blade and instructs her to use it as a key to retrieve an important artifact. These events culminate in her father being killed and the artifact taken by a group of masked men.
Oh, we're so sorry to hear about your father that passed away. He gets 5 big booms. Boom! 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 Boom!
So, the story of Assassin's Creed Shadows is a vengeance story, as it has been for all of them. Throughout the story, you'll meet some interesting characters, and eventually the two protagonists will align. One thing that did surprise me was that despite all the marketing around having two playable protagonists, you actually spend the first few hours only playing as Naoe, aside from the opening sequence. I got decently sidetracked doing a lot of side content, and I personally didn't get to play as Yasuke until around the 11 or 12 hour mark. Let's bookmark that and come back to it in a second. Speaking of getting sidetracked, there's a lot of the usual Ubisoft bloat. Fortunately, you are free to clear these activities as either Yasuke or Naoe, depending on what playstyle you prefer. Kind of. There are activities in the world and part of the main story that require you to play as either Yasuke or Naoe. I understand the reasoning. There's a lot of side characters that have history with each character, and the story makes more sense for those characters to be the ones that interact. That being said, I do have somewhat of a problem with this design, and that's purely because of the marketing push for this game boldly claiming that you could complete pretty much the whole game by only playing the character of your choice, which is a huge problem because, as I said, I went 12 hours before I was actually able to freely play Yasuke. For me personally, that was fine. I wanted to play Naoe more anyways. But if you prefer Yasuke's playstyle, you're stuck with the character you don't want to play for multiple hours until you can finally play the game how you want. Speaking of playstyles, the two characters offer vastly different experiences depending on what you're looking for. Naoe plays very much like the traditional Assassin's Creed experience. She doesn't deal a whole lot of damage in combat and she doesn't have a whole lot of health, so stealth is a large part of her playstyle. Yasuke, on the other hand, plays very similarly to the Odyssey and Valhalla approach to combat. He absolutely destroys everything in his way, and I do mean everything. He's a f***ing tank and dwarfs every other enemy on screen. The dude is so big and overpowered that just running into doors and barred off gates allows you to just smash through like a Sengoku period Kool-Aid man.
Oh yeah!
Which, while hilarious and admittedly kind of fun, brings me to my next point. All controversies aside, Yasuke as a character archetype just doesn't fit in Assassin's Creed. Naoe's stealth-first approach to the game feels very in line with what you'd want from an Assassin's Creed game, but Yasuke is very much an out-in-the-open, combat-oriented character. Even his climbing animations are extremely clunky, and he hurts himself when he performs the leap of faith. While a nice attention to detail, it's not very assassin-like. The only way a samurai character like Yasuke would make sense in the context of Assassin's Creed would be if the story called for a samurai that was having to use alternative forms of combat that are typically frowned upon by the samurai, and coming to terms with what honor means. And at that point, you should probably just play Ghost of Tsushima instead, as that's exactly what that story is. I made a video about it if you're interested. Now, what's good about the game? Well, it may surprise you to hear that there is in fact some good here. Great, even. As I mentioned earlier, the stealth plays a large part of the game if you're playing as Naue, and boy did they nail it with the stealth in this game. You're no longer limited to only being hidden in bushes or behind objects. Now, you can actually extinguish flames and be concealed by the dark. And it's not just a gimmick either. Enemies will actually notice if a light suddenly goes out, and they'll come investigate as well as relight it. They also added in the ability to go prone. That's right. After almost 20 years, we've finally mastered the art of laying down. The parkour and free running is also the flashiest and smoothest it's been since Unity. My one gripe with it is that it does feel like Naue can't jump quite as far as other characters have been able to in the past, but the grappling hook does allow for you to get around a lot easier than ever before. I genuinely love the movement in this game. The attention to the world is truly great. Snow melts depending on the time of day, storms dynamically roll in, preceded by clouds darkening the sky. Seasons change during gameplay, and with it, enemy patrols adjust accordingly. If it's snowing out, enemies will prefer to be inside more. All of this is complemented perfectly by the stunning level of graphics and texture in the world. Some of it is marred, however, by some blunders. The English voice acting is bad, and that's coming from someone who generally watches the English dubs of most media, and I'm telling you, turn on immersive mode and just read the subtitles. You'll enjoy it a lot more. Another problem, there's absolutely too much in this game. I'm all for having multi-100-hour games, if the content is varied. Assassin's Creed Shadows, however, is full of the same 6 or 7 objectives copy-pasted in various locations. For example, there's 26 castles scattered across the map. While they are all visually different, they all have the same basic objective: kill between 2 and 5 specific enemies to unlock a chest. And that's just one of many. One of my biggest gripes, piggybacking off of the recycled content, is how the main story and its missions are handled. Sometime back around the release of Origins, the Assassin's Creed games started to have targets on a tree that branched out into prerequisite quests. These used to be mostly side stories, with a couple being included in the main story. Now, however, these trees are the main story and require you to have to go through several missions that all boil down to go here and talk to this NPC, then across the map to talk to this one, finally culminating in assassinating the primary target. It's dull and bland, and admittedly, has been a huge reason for my dwindling interest in going back to the game. Now take that and multiply it by 13, 14, hell, maybe more, because I keep unlocking f***ing assassination trees seemingly every time I open the objective menu. There's way too many of these in the game, and by the way, that's 13 or 14 times 8 or 9 or 10 or however f***ing many are in a tree. And to make it worse, they are all the same assassination objectives, but with the enemies being reskinned to represent a different faction. I'm pretty good with repetitive content, but this is just entirely too much of the same thing. And none of it, including the main story, is anything special. The combat is also mediocre. Like I said, it's somewhat fun to just bash through anything and everything as Yasuke, but it's incredibly mindless. Stealth really is the only good aspect of the action systems in this game, and that's limited entirely to Naue, so good luck if you want to play as Yasuke. So where does that leave us? Whoa! Hold on a minute, Kel. You wrote your damn script and left out one of the most important bits of information. Alright, so I'm back again because I wrote the entire thing and forgot to touch on one of my favorite gripes about this. Favorite gripes. Biggest issue that I have, okay? And that is, despite the smorgasbord of controversies surrounding this game, and Ubisoft's potential future as a company, right? They still said, f*** it, we're going all in on the microtransactions. And I do mean all in, okay? I like 100% in. Not only do you have the standard full gear, not even cosmetics, they are full gear, that look infinitely cooler than anything else you can get in the game. You have mounts that admittedly are cosmetic, still way cooler than anything else you can get in the game. You can get map packs that unlock the locations of every side activity on the map. Regardless of the fog of war, you can just pay to skip potentially hours upon tens of hours of unlocking viewpoints and all kinds of shit. Then, you can also just straight up buy resource packs to upgrade your base and your armor, right? The armor you get on the cash shop, which scales to your level, but you know, if you buy it at level 1, you're gonna need to upgrade it, right? You can do the same with the actual money. You can just buy in-game money with real money, and all of this is in a $70 single-player game in the year of our Lord 2025. Okay? Holy hell. And no, this isn't new. This has been an issue in Assassin's Creed games for a long time. A long time. But it is the current release, and it's worth noting, and I would be disingenuous if I did not at least touch upon this. This is genuinely not acceptable. Regardless of anything else I have to say in this video, keep this in mind. This part, the microtransactions, are not acceptable to have in a $70 AAA full-priced game that you could be spending up to, I think it's like $85 or something like that, because they only did one edition because there was enough controversy, right, with Star Wars Outlaws having a $120 edition. They were like, well, we better just cut our losses and do $85. And people really hate the game, so we'll include the first expansion, which, good on them for that, I guess, but it doesn't excuse the microtransactions. So, keep that in mind. Anyways, back to the video. Well, Assassin's Creed Shadows is fine. It's not great, and it's not bad. It's just fine. It does some things very well and others bafflingly bad. Credit where it's due, I have had fun with this game, albeit with some caveats. Regardless of the general sentiment online, I do like Ubisoft. I've played every single Assassin's Creed game on launch going back to when I was just a kid. They've made some of my favorite games of all time, and I just want them to do better. We've seen it. They can do better. But this isn't the huge game changer they really needed. At the end of the day, it's Assassin's Creed. If you like the formula, then by all means play it. I would recommend waiting for a sale though. And that's it for my quick little Assassin's Creed Shadows small dive, shallow dive. I don't know. If you want a deep dive, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do a full video on it. You will probably see a lot more of these smaller form videos, these little bite-sized videos, alongside my larger scale Ghost of Tsushima-esque, full analysis videos. And if you have an idea for a game, let me know. But I do have 2 videos that I'm working on right now that I wanted to get this out because I am so tired of missing uploads. It's been too long, and I want to be consistent. And that's gonna be my thing from here on. I will be consistent. I hope to God that I am, because this is gonna age poorly. This is gonna age so poorly if I don't. But consistency is what I'm aiming for. I promise. And I'm gonna figure out a new setup for this. I don't know how often I'm gonna be doing these live little things, but I wanted to cut it in, save myself a little bit of time, because the game released towards the end of the month, and I really wanted to get this video out, and I only have like 8 days, and I'm like really bad about making videos. So, also, a little extra bit, this is the new studio. It may look a little different if you ever watched some other media that I was on, but this is the new studio. It's very nice so far. I like it. And I'm gonna be hopefully starting to stream once I get back on track. I'm this close to being ahead in releases. So then I'll have a little bit more wiggle room to be able to stream and directly interact with everybody live, which would be very cool because some of my favorite things is getting comments from you guys and talking with you. It's very fun. Which, by the way, if you want to talk to me more regularly, you can check out my Discord down in the description or on my channel or link wherever. It's everywhere. So, with all that being said, I'm Kel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye!